I'm Morgan, the Phantom Queen.
The phrase loses a bit of its impact every time Anna hears Fea say it. Gone is the intrigue that once surrounded their shared name. Does she believe Fea's boast? Had Anna ever doubted her in the first place? By now, Anna has seen Fea conquer over a dozen settlements. Each time, Fea's rustling feathers have made unthreatening opponents bloodthirsty. These victories always yield Fea with fealty and credence to the moniker she proudly bears. Maybe Jesus was wrong when he told Anna she was Morrigan? Though thinking back on it, Anna can see a resemblance beyond the physical. There was a time when her eyes were even more like Fea's than they are now. She was cold, naked, and hobbled over in the corner of a stone hut. The room was dim, with the only light coming from cracks in the wall. It reeked of fresh blood that clung mostly to her hair, nails, and clawed feet. She tasted iron in her mouth and felt freshly torn.
Hello, is anyone home?
Back then, Jesus' voice was unfamiliar. She can't remember how it felt to look at him as a stranger.
Ah, there you are.
He approached her in a way she hadn't known. There was no aggression in his slow, deliberate pace. When he reached her, he took the sash from around his neck and draped it over her.
Everything is going to be okay now. The war is over.
She felt his hand on her shoulder. Instinct drove her to pin the boy. There was no time for him to react. Most would have feared for their life, but not him. He just smiled up at her. He looked at her as though there was no way she could hurt a fly, let alone take his life.
Oh, you're friendly, huh?
He chuckled up until she pressed her claws against his neck.
Okay, maybe not.
Instead of being concerned about his own well-being, he worried about her. His eyes climbed up from her claws, past her eyes, and to the one horn that protruded from the side of her head.
Are you hurt?
With his words came a touch. His fingers ran along the opposite side of her head, where another horn should have been.
Here. This is where it hurts, right? Like there's something missing?
His touch caused her chest to throb and her stomach to churn. In retaliation, she jumped away from him, turned into a bird, and flew back into her corner. Jesus sat up and stared out at her, but didn't leave. He stayed there with her until she was ready to talk. Of course, she couldn't tell then, but Jesus was there to save her. It was clear from the way he visited every day and greeted,
Honey, I'm home!
to the way he washed her feet before supper. He focused on her claws, but try as he might, he never managed to scrub off the red that stained them.
It feels nice, right?
He made conversation with a girl who had forgotten how to speak.
Maybe someday you can do this for someone else. Do for others what you'd want them to do for you.
Little by little, he taught her things, like how to speak and how to smile.
It's like this, see? Look how white my lips become, and sometimes I even end up showing my teeth.
Jesus smiled as he encouraged her to do the same. She tried, but back then she wasn't as good at it as she is now. This? Anna whispered. She remembered reaching out and touching his face, feeling the way it moved around to form the smile.
Someone does this when they're happy.
Yeah, it's not just when they're happy. Sometimes they do it just to make others happy. I try to do it as often as I can. It's super infectious, and just the act of smiling can make even the saddest person feel better.
Anna's eyes remained fixated on his, and even though it took a while, she too eventually smiled. At first, she was only able to do it while looking at him, but it got to the point where it was pretty much her default expression. He read her scriptures, and through him, she came to know morality.
And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up.
Every time the sun rose, so did Anna, brighter than the day before.
But test everything. Hold fast to what is good.
Then when the sun started to set, she'd rush to bed just to wake up and see him again.
Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her.
Sometimes it took him more than a day to return, but even when alone waiting for him, she continued smiling. If not for him, then for herself. That was the power of a smile. It made people happy.
Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins.
The next time he returned, he came with an offer that Anna thought would keep that smile on her face forever.
Morgan, I want you to come live with me. Your rehabilitation is going so well that I think it's time you start interacting with others.
Rehabilitation? Others? Live with others? Like Jesus?
I live with a lot of awesome people. They're godlings just like you. There's Athena, a super smart girl who can be a bit grabby, but she means well. Kebuche, who's kind of a mystery, even more so once you get to know her. And Thruth, she's honestly a bit scary, so kind of watch yourself around her. I don't think I've ever seen her smile. But I don't think I would be able to if I lost as much as she did. Your smiles are even brighter than mine now, so maybe you might do Thruth some good.
She took his hands in her own and gave them a tiny squeeze. Her expression remained delighted, if not a bit doubtful.
Me? What if don't smile at me like Jesus? What do then? Afraid?
Everything felt better when he squeezed her hands back.
He'll be okay. I believe in you. If you can become so amazing in such a short time, then there's still hope for all of us. The end of the world doesn't have to be the end. You gave me that. That's what you taught me. We can be better than who we were before.
Jesus held up their hands and looked at their entwined fingers.
Though there's one thing before we go. I won't be calling you Morgan anymore. Smiles make people happy? Well, that name does the opposite. It's one of the things in this world capable of taking a smile away. I'm sorry, but for everyone's sake, I'm going to be calling you Ananda from now on. Anna for short.
He stared at her as though he was gauging her reaction. All Anna had to offer him at the time was her smile, the one he taught her to use as often as she could.
I understand. New name is better.
She nodded and ran past him. She looked over her shoulder and tugged him towards the door.
Come, we leave sad name here and make world smile as Jesus and Anna.
A tiny coin bounces off the side of Anna's head, returning her to the present. She looks over in the direction from whence the coin came and finds Fea chuckling. She looks back at Anna while piloting FSM and holding Hope in her lap.
You've been awfully quiet. Orison for your thoughts?
Fea inquires while holding up a hand and rolling a coin between her fingers.
Orison?
Anna reaches down and fishes the coin out of a pile of loose spaghetti, which is as repulsive as always. A quick glance over grants Anna the sight of Fea and the baby sharing a laugh at her expense.
It's concentrated prayers. Only thing mortals were good for. They say if you hold one up to your ear, you can hear the prayer inside.
Anna goes to do this and Fea snorts.
It's a joke. Ugh. It was left to the gods' discretion whether to act on a prayer or not. Regardless, people kept praying and gods kept earning orison.
Anna didn't know anything about orison. Must have been one of the lessons Jesus left out. Looking back, it makes sense. What good would this knowledge be if there weren't any mortals left?
Is fealty or divinity the same as orison? Kinda. Divinity came from worship. It's power. And orison's cool because enough of it can just be converted into divinity. Things got complicated when most mortals started worshipping one god. It's been rough, but now we have hope. So we'll be rich and powerful someday.
Anna gets it. For all the trouble Fea can stir up, she's actually pretty easy to understand when explaining things like this.
So, when people swear loyalty to you, you get their divinity and orison. And she scores. You're getting smarter every day, Annie. I've got many reasons for amassing power, but it also helps to keep Hope safe till she's old enough to pay rent.
Anna doesn't want to admit it, but being praised by Fea feels nice. It's kind of sad, thinking that people's hard-earned livelihood could be taken on a whim. Maybe if the mortals didn't all start worshipping one deity, there would have been enough orison and divinity to go around. Even so, shouldn't someone so praised be willing to share? The mortals should have worshipped someone like Jesus. He's the kind of selfless person who'd share his orison and divinity with any and everyone who needed it. But now there aren't many mortals, and there isn't a Jesus for them to pray to, only someone like Fea. And going off what Fea said, there aren't many better options. Anna notices Fea staring at her.
So, what were you thinking about earlier?
Anna wonders if she should share, then remembers that Jesus taught her to treat others the way she wanted to be treated. So, if she expects to learn why Fea is the way she is, then she needs to share her own experiences first.
My friend. The dead guy? Yeah, him. I was just thinking about when we first met,
and how much I've changed since then.
Were you always a crybaby?
Not really. I was just different. But I'm better now because of everyone, and I think I'm still growing even now, thanks to you.
Don't make it sound so sentimental. This is stuff every deity should know.
Right. Well, anyway, I remembered how Jay told me not to call myself Morrigan. He must have really thought I was the Phantom Queen. But now I'm doubting that. I think you might actually be the real thing.
That's flattering, but we're both fakes.
Thea belts out another loud laugh and slaps a hand down on the living spaghetti beneath her. A tremble runs through every noodle vine, and the sudden turbulence merits a giggle from Hope.
Wanna know something embarrassing? I thought you might have been her when we first met. Looking back, it's obvious, but I was still afraid. I've heard what Morrigan could do, and I honestly can't compare.
Anna almost wants to laugh. Someone as sure and strong as Feo was scared of her. That's the power of a name. The power of that name. So even though people mistake you for her, you've never actually thought you were the Phantom Queen?
Nah, I just look like a young Morrigan.
Thea tilts her head, and her crimson hair rakes against her freckled cheeks.
Which means you look like her too, just way less intimidating. I'm like her little sister. I don't know where you came from, but maybe you could be too.
Sisters? With Thea? Anna's cheeks warm at the idea. It might be nice to have some family, considering all she's ever had were her friends. But is Thea really family material? Looking ahead, Anna can see the girl picking up Hope and holding her in the air. She's making whooshing sounds with her mouth while twirling Hope about. Thea, maybe someday you can tell me about how you learned all this. Like, where you're from. I told you about myself, so if you want, you can...
Pass.
Thea says, her sharp tone returning. She drops Hope down into her lap. And just like that, Anna feels as though all the goodwill she's built up with Thea floats away in the passing breeze. Thea ties Hope down before walking to the edge of FSM. Without a word, Thea leaps from their flying spaghetti monster. Anna rushes to the side to watch as Thea falls toward a bonfire gathering below them. Anna sees huts, and even from this high up, she can hear the sounds of drums. Anna looks to Hope, exhales, then jumps off after Thea. As Anna dives, she throws her arms out, turning them into wings and using them to slow her descent. Anna lands in a row of bushes beside Thea. Thea scowls at Anna and tilts her head. Sighing, Anna approaches Thea and whispers, I'm here to make sure you don't hurt anyone.
If they're smart, they won't get hurt.
Thea turns around, and Anna gets a good look at the smirk on her face. Not wasting any time, Thea rushes from the bushes. Wow, she must mean business because she doesn't even bother summoning her mask or trying to hide her identity. Anna follows Thea out of the shrubs and right up to the dancing and mingling tribe. Looking around, Anna feels like they're surrounded, just like back in the bar. A shiver runs down Anna's spine, unsure if Thea should engage so confidently. Though, after seeing Thea fight off and scare so many people at once, she should give her twin a bit more credit. After all, Thea wouldn't jump down without some kind of plan or idea of how strong her opponents are. The majority of the people here are women or children, very different from the tavern. They all have dark brown skin and shining silver hair. Most of their attire consists of loose-fitting cloth, silk head wraps, and beads. Ahead, Anna sees she's losing Thea and rushes up behind her. 4 figures approach Thea, meeting her in the middle of their commune, right beside a bright fire that illuminates the sparsely forested area. Up walks a large man, with likely the darkest skin of everyone there. His bright hair is tied into dreadlocks, beneath a bandana that's the same shade of red as his loincloth. There's some hair working down the sides of his face and meeting at his chin. Beside him is a woman, holding onto one of the man's large biceps. She's dark as well, but lighter than him. She wears a red cloak that is held up by a gold pendant at her shoulder. Her hair sits as a large poof atop her head, To Anna, the oddest thing about the woman are the several golden bands around her neck. A young girl comes frolicking up from behind them. Her skin's just as light as the older woman before her. Her short, unkempt hair seems as wild as a storm's wind, with all the damage that comes after, as it's littered with stray leaves and twigs. Curling along her bicep is a root peppered with flowers, and hanging from her ears are a pair of gold hoops that jangle with every step she takes. Her top is a soil-covered cloth, with branches for straps, and she wears a dress made from leaves. Though her arms are mostly bare, as are her legs, both her wrists and ankles, and with cuffs made of grass. Like the two before her, she's silent, but unlike them, she gives Fea a look. It's a once-over, trailing her sharp green eyes from head to toe. A devious grin cracks her face, and Anna can see she's missing her two front teeth. Coming up last is a boy who looks nothing like anyone else there, for his skin is as white as Anna or Fea's. He's much younger than the man and woman beside him, but around the same age as the young girl smiling at Fea, maybe older. He looks as though he might be the same age as Gilgamesh or Hercules. His hair is dark and earthy like moonlit grass, and his attire is made up of sashes tied throughout his form, with armor predominantly covering his midsection, all brought together by a large indigo cape that sways behind him.
Looks like we have some guests, Shango.
The woman is the first person to speak, tightening her arm around the man beside her as she does so.
It's always nice to see friendly faces around these parts.
Her deep brown eyes creep over to the young boy as she speaks again.
Come, Perun! Let's make some room for these young ladies!
Her gaze shifts to the young girl now.
Aja! Fetch some water for our guests!
Anna's eyes bounce between the members of this family after they've been given orders. She ends up watching the young girl first, her attention wrangled by a loud groan.
Really? They don't even look thirsty.
She peers forward and might have caught Anna staring had she not looked away.
You too thirsty?
She calls out, and while Anna wouldn't normally respond, she fully expects Fea to. But before even a second goes by, the girl speaks up again.
See? Not thirsty.
Anna's gaze teeters back over to the girl, who stands and stares up at the older woman with a rebellious grin. The older woman stands her ground, and with the tiniest furrow of her brow, the girl shivers.
Fine. Water. On it, got it.
With hunched shoulders and crossed arms, the girl raises a foot. She drops her heel down into the ground, causing it to split. Water rushes up, spilling out and over the crack. In a flourish, she pulls one of the tiny leaves from her hair, and as it whizzes through the air, it grows in size. She swipes it by the spring, scooping up a hefty amount of water in the oversized frond. Then, with one last flick of her wrist, sends the leaf spinning towards Anna and Fea. The leaf glides over and lands before the girls. As expected, the water is murky and full of dirt and worms.
Aja!
The older woman speaks in a deep voice. The girl, Aya, arms still crossed, attitude still visible through her cocked hip and slouched shoulders, doesn't even look up at the older woman.
Oya?
The woman, Oya, narrows her sight on the leaking hole in the ground.
That's soil water. Dirty water. These are our guests.
She motions towards one of the trees.
There are ways to get clean water.
Aya peeks up at Oya and chuckles a tad.
Oops. You gotta be more clear than that, ma'am. I guess I can whip up some fresh water for ya. Though given the feathers, I thought they'd be happy about all the worms.
Okay. I'll be sure to be more clear once our guests leave.
Oya whispers, touching a hand to Aya's back. Once again, Aya shivers. Anna hears something bubbling and looks down and notices that the water is shaking and bits of dirt, worms, and loose leaves are flying from the large droplet. After seemingly, begrudgingly doing what Oya asked of her, Aya sets her eyes on the boy.
Hey, Peru, why didn't you move the soil out of the water for the girls? Oh, wait. You can't.
Aya giggles as she rocks back and forth in her dirt patch. Each time she laughs, all the surrounding bushes shake and bob in place. The boy, Perun, blushes.
Funny, Aja. Real funny.
He remains still, eyes fixated on Fea and Anna. Anna looks from all the action in front of her to Fea, who's been quiet through all of this. Even the goading from Aya wasn't enough to shake whatever this focus is. That's when Anna notices it. Fea's eyes, those piercing sapphire hues, are searching the area, like she's looking for something. On occasion, she sees Fea's eyes shoot forward and lock with whoever's speaking like she's intently listening to them. Then she goes back to searching. Brief as it is, Anna attempts to think like Fea. Not all the angry, hot-headed stuff that usually comes to mind, but the more strategic, conqueror side of Fea. Maybe she's assessing her surroundings for escape routes if things go south, or seeing how she can use the terrain to her advantage. It's notable, considering that Aya's laugh causes tremors in the nearby plant life, cluing Anna, and no doubt Fea, into what the girl's capable of. On top of that, the little display with water shows she possesses some level of elemental control. Then, given how Oya is able to stop her with words alone, she's even more powerful than Aya. Finally, it comes down to Perun. Aya's teasing makes it seem like Perun either can't control soil or the water itself. Wow. In just a brief moment, she's formed a hierarchy of power and an educated estimation of what these people are capable of, and that's just with her own intelligence. She can't imagine what Fea's already figured out. Then, just as Anna feels like she understands, Fea jumps forward. She lands right in front of their greeters. Startled by Fea, Aya falls back and lands on her bottom. Anna takes hesitant steps to close the gap and hears Fea chuckling, no doubt because of Aya's reaction. As Anna reaches Fea, she notices it, the feathers at her collar shuffling. Oh no, she's going to enrage these nice people.
Okay.
Aya growls as she raises her hand. From a large tree overhead comes a vine that curls around Aya's arm and lifts her to her feet. With another flourish, Aya pulls a tiny twig from her hair. While spinning, the twig triples in size, becoming a large staff that she twirls about before jabbing it out towards Fea.
You're rude. I don't like you.
Anna notices there's some crimson building up in Aya's once grass-green eyes. Just as it looks like Aya's about to lunge her staff forward, Perrin shifts in front of her. As he does so, he too flourishes, throwing his arm out, causing his purple cape to dance about before settling behind him.
You're supposed to be the voice of the forest. Don't tell me the forest already has a problem with two little girls.
Somehow, the wind rolls in, just in time to dramatically blow through his cape. Perrin turns around, faces Aya, and drops a hand atop her head. Despite all the leaves and twigs, it doesn't seem to bother him as he tousles her hair.
So come on, what does the forest really think of them?
Anna checks Aya and sees the crimson leaving her green eyes. Fea must not have taken complete control. However, red does find itself elsewhere, in the form of a blush growing around Aya's cheeks.
They're still rude, but I guess the forest can look the other way this time.
Great. Tell the forest I appreciate that. It's a pretty good judge of character.
As Perrin turns and steps towards Fea, Aya reaches out, grabbing his wrist. A single tug turns his attention back to the younger deity.
That isn't all the forest wants to say. The forest wants to say that
Something the matter? Aja, you okay? Don't tell me you drank the soil water.
Anna recognizes that look, but she really doesn't know how. No, she recognizes that feeling. The way Aya's shoulders rise and fall with her breath, the way her grip's tightening around his wrist, and the longer they touch, the hotter her cheeks feel. Anna's been there before.
Come on, Aja, spit it out already. Is the forest always so congested?
Forget it.
Aya shouts and turns away from Perrin. As she spins, she tugs on two leaves in her hair, yanking them down and growing them out so they surround her entire head.
The forest doesn't want to talk to you anymore.
Oh man, really? Just when I thought the forest was starting to like me.
Perrin hangs his head and with a shrug of his shoulders looks back towards Fea and Anna.
Pathetic. Pathetic.
Fea speaks at last. Anna always forgets how short Fea is when it's just the two of them, but these people really put it in perspective. As the closer Fea gets, the further up she has to look. She can't possibly hope to look intimidating like this. Stepping forward, Fea parks one hand on her hip and points the other one at the large man at the front of the clan. He's said nothing and done less, but given the way Faye is singling him out, she must have determined he's the leader.
You're in charge, right? I saw your domain from overhead and just thought, I gotta have it. So be a good bumpkin and hand it over.
Faye says with a twisted grin.
Be warned. The Morgan isn't above using force to get what she wants.
The robust fellow laughs, at last making his voice known. His protruding stomach shakes in time with his laughter. He reaches forward and tousles Faye's hair.
Well, Morrigan, you know what's better than a good fight? A good feast. Oya's the best cook in the 9 realms. You're lucky. You got her just in time.
The man doesn't seem to believe Fea's subtle assertion. This didn't sit well with Fea as she trembles and clenches her fists.
Just sit down and eat. We don't bite. Usually. Be happy you can at least eat. I have to do the whole photosynthesis thing.
Aya's voice travels throughout the forest. Anna hears it in every fern and bush. They chime as though they're her chorus. Faster than Anna's eyes can register, Fea leaps towards the big guy, a fist outstretched towards his face. Even faster than Fea, the man somehow ends up behind her, catching her by the back of her shirt.
What? Didn't come with an appetite? Fine. Build it up as much as you need.
The man laughs as he sets Fea down. Fea grits her teeth and glares up at the man.
A pacifist, huh? Then I'll force the fight out of ya.
Anna knows what comes next. Fea's feathers start shaking, and she soon expects a full-on battle to break out. Anna winces and closes her eyes, not ready to see the attack that's sure to follow. However, she doesn't hear a punch or kick. Instead, the soft sound of drums. She opens her eyes, and sure enough, there that big man is, banging away on a pair of drums while Fea's feathers keep shuffling. Fea looks at her plumage, confused, before glaring up at him.
What an angry little child. You should try beating drums instead of bodies.
He spins and walks away from Fea, still banging away on his drums the entire time.
Now that is what I call relaxing. Such a smooth beat, yeah?
His drums. I gotta destroy that drum set.
Fea says, landing next to Anna. Fea! Anna speaks up, hoping to convince her not to fight.
There's too many people. Didn't you see how fast he was? And if he has the power to resist you, doesn't that mean he's stronger? If I can't handle him, I'll fall back and make them all beat each other senseless. Then after a few hours, they'll be too bloodied and broken to deny me.
Anna's not surprised by Fea's cunning plan. Looking around, she sees the faces of worried and confused women and children. Fea is going to make them tools in her coup. Anna doesn't want to let that happen, but how could she stop the girl?
Shango, sir!
Perrin runs up and takes a spot before the large drummer, Shango. He looks back and forth between Shango and Fea.
Shouldn't we do something about this girl? She's making threats against our home.
You're too uptight, Perun.
Shango plays the drum with one hand while patting Perrin's back with the other. Each slap of Perrin's back nearly sends him tumbling forward.
You need to learn how to relax. I'm sure we just startled them.
We startled them? They're the ones entering our territory.
Perrin shakes his head. Oya calls out to everyone still crowding around the fire.
Come on! I prepared you girls a spot. Hurry before either gets cold or Shango eats it all.
These people seem nice enough, so after a hesitant glance to Fea, Anna walks over towards a stump beside the cut-down tree Oya's sitting on, across from Aya. As Anna sits, Oya smiles at her and hands her a large leaf platter of various foods that she's never seen before. She can't begin to even describe what they are beyond their colors of orange, brown, and white.
See?
Anna looks over after hearing Shango's voice again.
The girl is just hungry. And who wouldn't be after a long journey?
Yeah, but
Perrin says as he looks from Anna to Fea again.
what about her? She's still trying to challenge you for our domain. Are you all really going to have dinner while she tries to overthrow us?
A chuckle erupts from Shango.
Listen. The best lesson I could ever teach you is the value of patience.
Anna feels like Fea can benefit from Shango's lesson. If she wasn't so gung-ho, then they wouldn't be in a situation where they're this outmatched. It's a good thing they're just godlings, so these people are going easy on them.
All threats to our home should be taken very seriously.
Perrin says as he walks from Shango to Feya. With every step he takes comes an updraft, a gust so strong it has his hair and cape whipping about wildly.
I'll fight her in your place.
Anna looks to Shango and sees that he's already on a tree stump of his own, neither too far from the upcoming battle or the food.
Remember, Perun, patience is key. So, I'll be grabbing grub if you don't mind.
Back to the fight. Anna sees Perrin getting into some sort of stance. A smirk crawls across his face. He nods his head in time with the beating of the drums before flaring his cape off to the side, a gust of wind keeping it afloat.
So mind if I have this dance?
Anna hears Aya groan from around her, but doesn't look over, already figuring that the poor girl's just continuing her bout of jealousy. Anna's eyes bounce between the two, from Perrin and the slight winds building around him to Feya looking confident as ever. Feya ends up making the first move, as always, and flickers out of sight, reappearing behind the boy. She drops down, spins, and takes out his legs. Nearing the ground, Perrin thrusts out his palms, shooting a gust of wind from his hands, causing him to spin mid-air. Now facing the ground, Perrin puffs out his cheeks and blows, creating a larger burst of wind that sends him up into the air. He flips, then lands away from Feya. Feya's on him again, though, throwing a series of punches and kicks. To her own surprise, Anna's able to keep up with these attacks. Feya's attacks don't seem to follow any kind of pattern and impact many different parts of Perrin's body. Her fists slam against his elbow, their knees meet, and they lock eyes. The closeness comes to an end when Feya's feathers start to shuffle. Noticing Shango still playing his drum, Anna wonders what good it will do. That's when some feathers shoot forth from Feya's collar. Perrin gasps and attempts to evade, but still ends up being clipped by the sharpened feathers. They slash his cheeks and his shoulders. He's off balance, and if Anna can see this much, then Feya must already be taking advantage of it. Just as predicted, Feya delivers a punch to Perrin's ribcage, then leaps up to deliver a powerful roundhouse to his face. Perrin ends up falling backward and rolling away from Feya.
Not bad for a first go, Perun, but remember, you've got to be patient.
Shango's voice enters the fray.
She's in a rush. Don't play by her rules. Make her come to you.
Right, Master. Sorry.
Perrin pushes himself up onto his feet and looks ahead at Feya, who's confidently bouncing up and down.
I gotta be in control.
Perrin closes his eyes and exhales. Both of his arms fall to his side, and the wind that's been racing around him becomes more concentrated, centralized around his body. Feya's in his space again. She's launching a fist, and it looks like it connects with Perrin for a moment. However, seconds later, Feya goes flying into a nearby tree. Luckily, Feya manages to spin midair, so that when her feet touch the tree, she's able to push off and fly right back at Perrin. Again, an attack aimed at his back sends Feya flying off in another direction. Feya lands and glares at Perrin. A wind current circulates around Perrin, redirecting Feya's attacks. Anna's heart sinks. They're outmatched here. Again, Anna wonders why Feya would attack a place without a better plan first. Well, maybe she believed they could use their usual pattern of attack, but then why didn't Feya bail when Shango canceled out her power? Perrin takes his hands and positions them so that his pointer and middle fingers are extended on both hands.
Try this on for size!
Electricity builds up from his feet, through his legs, up his forearms, and to the tips of his fingers. Perrin thrusts one arm forward, and a streak of lightning rockets from the boy, through his wind sphere, and towards Feya. Feya! Anna calls out, and thankfully Feya manages to avoid the attack by leaping into the air. Perrin's second hand thrusts upwards, and with it comes another lightning beam. This one hits Feya, and the scream alone is enough to cause Anna to wince and look away. The charred smell doesn't help either. When Anna looks back, she finds Feya pushing herself up.
That not enough for you? How's about we heat things up?
Perrin opens his right hand, and a ball of fire ignites just over his palm. With a confident-looking smile, the boy winds up, then throws the fireball. Unfortunately, or luckily, the ball gets caught in the wind current surrounding him and causes his entire sphere to light on fire for a moment. Seemingly taking advantage of this, Feya rushes him. As she runs, she rips 2 handfuls of feathers from her plumage.
Crap, crap, crap! Oh man! Oh man!
Perrin drops his air bubble to disperse the flames. He brushes a forearm over his face to clear the smoke from his eyes. He looks up in time to see Fea's in his face again. Grunting, Perrin summons another fireball in one hand while getting lightning ready in the other. He sends out his attacks just as Fea throws her feathers. She takes the brunt of both elements while her feathers miss Perrin. Fea goes flying back, a mix of electricity and fire dancing all over her body. Before she would hit the ground, Fea turns her body and instead lands on her feet. She doesn't even look at Perrin as she pats out a series of tiny embers left by his blasts. Despite the scorched tips of her outfit and the smell of lightning and ash, Fea seems unfazed. There isn't a burn on her skin. Were her healing capabilities always that good?
You just don't know when to stay down. You're clearly outmatched.
Perrin whips his arms up and brings back his air bubble. He narrows his eyes and takes a tactical step back. After a soft exhale, Fea rushes Perrin. Fea holds a sharpened feather between each of her fingers. Whatever Fea has planned, Anna hopes it works.
You barely touched your food. Is something the matter, sweetie?
Oya's soft voice resonates with Anna and gets her to look away from the battle. Though her eyes do occasionally flit back to see Fea running around Perrin, tossing feathers, only for them to be sent flying away by Perrin's shield.
Oh, no, I was just...
Anna looks to the food, then to Oya, then to Shango, who looks like he's enjoying the fight, given the way he's laughing and slapping his thigh. This all seems so silly to Anna. Why were these people treating this like some kind of spectacle?
I guess I'm worried about the battle is all. I don't want anyone to get hurt.
Oya chuckles.
You're just sparring. If this were an actual fight, Shango would have taken care of it himself. Or at least give Perun the advantage here in our domain. Besides, something is clearly bothering your friend.
Anna remembers prying into Fea's life earlier and lowers her head.
Aren't the two of you too young to be traveling around by yourselves?
Oya asks, focusing on the fight before them.
It's rough out there. Just look at Perun.
Anna looks from Oya to Perrin, who's still redirecting Fea's feathers away whenever they would dare to pierce his air bubble.
He was all by himself until he showed up looking for Shango. I know he seems rough around the edges, but believe me when I say he was way worse when he first showed up.
Oya sighs.
Now, the boy is like a son to me. If you girls need a place to call home, or a group to call family, we do not mind having you young ones around. In times like this, it is much better to be together than split apart.
It's better to be together than apart. For some reason, those words beat around in Anna's chest. Thoughts of Athena, Kevashet, and Thruth come to mind. But so does FSM, IPU, Hope, and even Fea. Anna turns to thank Oya for the offer, but stops when she hears the sound of oak aching against itself. Looking over, Anna sees several trees falling down around Perrin. He channels wind around his hands to keep the falling trees afloat.
Oh, not bad.
Shango's laugh rings in Anna's ears.
She used Perun's current against him. Those feathers really brought down an entire forest on my boy. Oh, I wonder what he's gonna do next.
Aya jumps to her feet.
No fair! I didn't say you could use my forest!
Fea doesn't bother attacking the trapped Perrin, instead opting to send her feathers shooting off into random directions of the forest. Oya chuckles and nudges an elbow against Anna.
Your sister sure is a willy one.
Anna looks down to untouched food before her.
She's not my sister. At least, I don't think she is.
Well, perhaps she's the sun to your moon then.
Oya's words confuse Anna, and she glances up to see the woman tapping a finger against her rounded chin.
The earth needs both, you know? But the sun and the moon need each other even more.
Sheepishly, Anna responds with a shrug of her shoulders.
Yeah, maybe.
I was a lot like her when I was young. Hot like fire, and ready to burn all those who got too close.
Anna's gaze snaps to Oya, and she's in utter disbelief.
Really? But you seem so nice.
Anna's words earn her another one of Oya's soft laughs.
That's because I met my moon. That drum-beating blowhard completes me.
Oya says as she points to Shango. Anna's gaze eases over and comes to a rest on Fea.
Stay with her. She'll get hurt without you. Someone like her absolutely needs someone like you.
If Shango could save Oya, and Jesus could save her, then perhaps she could save Fea. There's a bright flash. Fea's fist closes in on Perrin's face, while he thrusts a fireball towards her chest. A thundering boom rings out, and Shango appears between the two, Fea's fist indenting his cheek, and Perrin's flame meets an end against his back. Despite the attacks, Shango still beats his drum and exclaims,
All right, that's enough flying fist for today. You've both earned a bite to eat.
But
Perrin steps back and looks from Shango to Fea.
it wasn't over. I almost had her. I need to be able to protect us from invaders and...
Perrin receives a swift chop to his forehead by Shango, silencing him.
Ow, 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 ow.
Come on, Perun. You're stressing yourself out. And stress is bad for you.
Shango bellows joyfully before tousling Perrin's hair.
Too much training can be a bad thing.
Anna's eyes teeter over to Fea, who's standing there examining the fist she almost hit Perrin with. She's opening and closing her hand over and over again, as though something's wrong. The curious look in Fea's eye gives way to one of her usual glares. Fea snaps her wrist upwards, and every feather strewn about the forested area returns to her. On the way back to her collar, the feathers slash anything in their path. This includes every drum the tribe had, especially the one Shango left unattended. As the final feather flattens along her plumage, Fea smirks. Anna's eyes widen, her stomach tightens, and she expects the worst. Fea's plan must have been to distract everyone by sparring with Perrin. Somehow she knew that they'd be lulled into a false sense of security by the fight, and so she waited for the very moment Shango himself would let his guard down. Sure, as the owner of the domain, he could reconstruct the drum in a matter of seconds, but even that was enough of a window for Fea to take control. That gap was all she'd need to tear this tribe apart. The familial bonds, the unspoken feelings, all of this and more would be ripped apart by Fea's conquest. Anna shuts her eyes tight. The darkness acts as a momentary salve, but she knew it wouldn't be good enough, so she covers her ears as well. Anna doesn't want to hear the battle cries. She doesn't want to hear these nice people who love each other come to hate one another. Seconds pass, and Anna expects to feel something, likely Fea dragging her away from any ensuing chaos, but it doesn't come. One eye opens, then the other, and Anna sees Fea and everyone else standing right where they were before. Nothing had changed. Fea's arm was outstretched, and she had a shocked look on her face, but nothing more.
Shango!
Oya calls out as she walks up to her husband. When she reaches him, she grins down in Fea's direction.
This girl has Ashe! While we shouldn't make ourselves completely subservient to her, the Orisha can benefit from an alliance.
The mere mention of such a thing seems to pique Fea's interest as much as it does Anna's. Shango nods to Oya, then steps towards Fea and holds out one of his large hands.
How's about it, little one? Like this, neither of us will be beneath each other. We'll stand together, and if you need our strength, it is yours.
This is it. This is what Anna wants. Gaining divinity through cooperation, not subjugation. Anna rushes over, a smile plastered on her face from the very thought of it all. Stopping right beside Fea, she looks to her son, and watches as Fea looks from her own hand to Shango's. Fea's eyes narrow. Then, with a grunt, she smacks Shango's hand away.
Not interested.
Fea scoffs and pushes through the group. Coming to a stop at the edge of the tribe, Fea looks up into the air and calls out,
Bon appetit!
Fea leaps upwards, turns her arms into wings, and flies up to meet FSM halfway. Anna reluctantly looks from Fea's airborne position to Shango, Oya, Aya, and Perrin, who are all looking at her with different expressions in their eyes. Perrin looks annoyed, Aya looks angry, Shango looks confused, and Oya somehow seems understanding. Approaching Anna, Oya crouches down so that they can be eye level. Smiling, she offers her hand to Anna. With a sigh, and an apologetic shake of her head, Anna grasps Oya's hand. However, upon touching it, she feels something cool rush over her body. A breeze rolls by, and it causes her hair, skirt, and feathers to dance briefly. As Oya pulls her hand away, Anna notices something left behind. An axe charm, carved from bright red wood.
Your son isn't the only one with Ashe. Take good care of her, okay?
Oya stands and looks up to the flying spaghetti monster descending overhead, no doubt there for Anna.
If you ever need us, don't hesitate to call.
Oya says while patting the young girl on the shoulder. They exchange a look and a smile before Anna hoists herself up via a stray hanging noodle. Anna runs her thumbs along the wooden artifact she received from Oya. Paired with the soft winds rolling by, and Oya's words still fresh in her mind, Anna can smile. She glances ahead to Fea, who's been silent ever since they left Shango's tribe. The encounter left Anna with so many questions. Who taught Fea about the Phantom Queen? Why does it strike such a chord? And why didn't Fea want to form alliances? As much as she wants the questions answered, she'll wait until the time's right. While the sun and the moon switch places every night, Anna doubts getting through to Fea is going to happen overnight. Fea's been clenching and unclenching her hand ever since the battle, and the gesture has Anna wondering if the girl was injured. Anna trudges along the spaghetti and sits down beside Fea. She picks up Hope and holds on to the resting baby, while glancing at the tougher girl on occasion. As her lips push away to give way to a question about Fea's hand, the other girl speaks up.
What a wash. I should have just manipulated them all from the bushes. Or mowed them down with FSM.
Fea growls, prompting Anna to hide Oya's charm.
Do you really think it was a waste? You got to spar, and we met some really nice people,
Anna whispers. People. She thinks about reaching out and touching the girl, but decides against it.
People who are willing to side with you, help you. How is that a bad thing? Shut up.
Fea snaps around and glares at Anna, startling the girl.
While we were busy with that tribe, one of my domains was ganked.
Fea shakes her head while balling her hand into a fist.
I knew something was off near the end of the fight.
Anna's eyes widen and she sits in disbelief. Someone did to Fea what she's been doing to others. It almost seems ironic, but Anna wouldn't dare say that out loud. Looking at Fea, Anna asks,
Well, what are we going to do?
A deranged smirk forms on Fea's face as she tilts her head.
I'm gonna take back what's mine.